Hello and welcome to another episode of the BSN podcast. Today is Friday, August 5th. Hope everybody's having a day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is in fact Friday, August 5th. We have made it. It is the end of the week. It is Friday. Tomorrow is the weekend. So that's always a good thing. We got a lot in store today. Mets Braves last night. It was a good game. Mets got the win 6-4. Braves just could not come up big. Mets, Tyler Naquin with a big night, 2 home runs. Cookie Carrasco was pretty solid. Edwin Diaz comes in for the 6-out save. And really just the Mets were the better team. And I think, it's weird because when you look at certain baseball teams, it's like the Braves somehow, it just seems they cannot get over the Mets. When the Mets went into Atlanta, they took 2 out of 3. When the Mets, now they're back in New York and the Mets take the first game. And last night was a big game for the Mets because now you feel that the Mets have, Scherzer and then DeGrom going Saturday and Sunday. So the next 2 of the next 3 games are going to have the pitching advantage. So really there's no excuse now. Mets should win at least 3 of these 5 games, maybe 4 if things fall their way. So a big win last night for the Mets. Braves will look to bounce back today. Big game for the Braves. If the Braves lose today, you're in serious jeopardy because then you're going to have to face DeGrom and Scherzer 2 of the next 3 games, obviously being a 5-game set. And then you're going to have to find a way to win one of those or else it's going to be, if you don't win any of those, you might get swept. So big night tonight for the Braves. Another big game tonight for that series, which is a massive one, big one. Crowd last night at Citi Field was large. It was a playoff atmosphere. I don't know if I would say it was like the Subway Series, but it was definitely, closer to that, where it was a high-energy crowd, all levels, upper deck, lower bowl, all filled, packed crowd for a gigantic series here in August. So, Mets last night, they'll be back in action today, Game 2 of the 5-game set against the Braves. Yankees will open up a 3-game set and their road trip against the Cardinals tonight. So, Game 1 of the 3-game set will be tonight. By the way, Monty will pitch tomorrow. So, in his first start back, he'll get the ball tomorrow against his former team. And Montez will get the ball for the Yankees on Sunday. So, a lot of interesting pitching matchups coming up for the Yankees and the Cardinals. So, with that being said, a lot to get to on this Friday program. We're going to start things up with the Giants training camp update. I did it yesterday with the Jets. I'm going to do it today with the Giants. I figure do these once or twice every, 2 weeks or so. I figure kind of just doing an update. Both the Giants and the Jets actually have had some pretty good practices the past couple days. So there's been a lot of promising signs. So we're going to get to the Giants training camp update. I'll give you some stuff on Daniel Jones, give you some notes on the rest of the players. Similar, basically exactly what I did yesterday with the Jets, except this time with the Giants. So we're going to give you a Giants training camp update. We're also going to get to a little bit of baseball news. So a lot of these podcasts have gone football and baseball and football because it's that time of year, like I've mentioned many times. The Phillies have released Didi Gregorius. They've gotten rid of their shortstop, former Yankee and Arizona Diamondback. Didi Gregorius has gotten released. We're going to get into it, talk about the move, what this means for him, where he could possibly go. And all the people out there that want him to come back to the Yankees, as much as I love Didi, as much as he was a great locker room guy, I would not I would not put the stamp of approval on these possibilities of him coming back to the New York Yankees. I'll tell you why coming up, and we'll also get to the New York sports update to finish things off. Like I said, Mets tonight, Game 2 of the 5 games, set 4 days against the Braves. Yankees, Game 1 of a big 3-game set. It's a big 3-game set for the Yankees. You got to come out. You can't lay duds. It's a big one for Montez. He'll make his debut. Tomorrow's Monty. He'll have an opportunity to go up against former team. There's going to be a lot of energy in this series. On paper, it might just be like, oh, another series. But you got a guy going up against his former team. Monty's going to want to go out there and show out. Montez is going to want to make a good first impression. And in general, Yankees are, they've lost 3 of their last 4. They're coming off a really tough loss on Wednesday. Day off yesterday, start of a road trip, get things started off on the right note. So we'll see how all that plays out. So, with all that being said, a lot to get to today on the program. This is the BSN podcast, and let's get into it. So yesterday I did my Jets training camp update. I figured I'll probably do these every, week or 2 weeks or so. Anytime something pops up. Wilson had a very good day yesterday. I talked about it. Daniel Jones had a pretty good day, more so the other day on August 2nd. So what was that, Wednesday, I believe, right? Because yesterday was Tuesday. So he had a good day on Tuesday. Wilson had a very good day on Wednesday. Jets had a day off yesterday from training camp, so they didn't practice. They'll be back today. And then the green and white scrimmage at MetLife is tomorrow. So, but this is about the Giants. Tonight, the Giants actually have their blue and white scrimmage, their FanFest blue and white scrimmage tonight. So I'm sure you'll get a lot of reporting out of that from all the insiders and beat reporters associated with the New York Giants. So, the Giants, similar to the Jets, are an interesting situation where the Jets, it's a big year for them. It's a big, they should be competitive this season. They should have a lot more, they have a lot more talent, should be much better. And I oftentimes say this, the Giants are where the Jets were last year, right? The Jets were seeing what pieces fit, seeing what pieces don't fit, going into the season, kind of, all right, this guy fits, this guy doesn't, this guy's kind of got a roll. And then at the end of the year, they'll come together, see what fits, see what doesn't fit, and they'll roll with it. Now, the Giants are a little bit different because it's not as young of a team. It's a lot more experienced. It's a lot more guys like, Gallarde, who's been in the league. They got Daniel Jones, who, he's been around. I mean, Daniel Jones isn't a guy that's, this isn't his rookie year. He's going to his, fifth season. So he's a guy that has been around in this league. So they're a little bit more veteranized, and I think that's a little bit of the difference. And when you have to look at training camp, you have to look at it in a different lens. The Jets, it's all about progress. The Giants, you want consistency, right? The Jets, same thing you want the Jets with consistency too, but you have to expect more up and downs a little bit sometimes with the Jets, just because of the fact that they're a younger team. With the Giants, it's a lot more veterans. They still have a lot of youth, right? Thibodeau's young, Wan'Dale Robinson, Kadarius Toney, they still have a lot of youth. Jones isn't incredibly old, but he's still, he's still trying to earn his first big contract with a big year this year. And Daniel Jones is obviously the main storyline, and that's always going to be the case. It's always going to be the quarterback is going to be the main storyline, especially with the new offensive system with Brian Dable and what he's installing. What he did with Josh Allen and the Bills in Buffalo was simply phenomenal. He turned that offense and turned Josh Allen into what looked like a quarterback that could not make a single pass, was very inaccurate. The offense was not, meshing. He turned it into, Josh Allen being one of the best quarterbacks in all football, and an offense that is absolutely lethal. And now you look at the Buffalo Bills, they are the Super Bowl favorite this year. They are the odds-on favorite if you wanted to put some money down on that. So he did a phenomenal job with them, and he's trying to do that here again with the New York Giants. So Daniel Jones, up to this point, has had a little bit of a bumpy road throughout training camp. He's kind of been up and down, has had some good days, has had some bad days. And in reality, like I said, and the season still has to come by, in reality, I think that's just what you're going to get out of Daniel Jones. I don't think he's a phenomenal quarterback. I don't think he's a guy that's going to go out and win you 10, 11 games any season. I just don't think he's a franchise guy. I've said that from day one. I'll continue to say that. But he has shown some promising signs. And, if you're a Giant fan, you just got to hope that some of these promising signs that he has shown throughout training camp is a sign of the Dable system working, is a sign of him showing progress. Not so much making a jump like Josh Allen, but making a jump to where he's a quarterback that can go out and win you football games. Because Daniel Jones has to have a big year. And he's had some good days at camp. He had a good day on Tuesday. And that's, if you're a Giant fan, you got to feel good about it. Because it shows that this system that Dable's running, it can work. But it's all about the quarterback. And it's all about if Daniel Jones can be consistent, make the smart throws, accuracy, do not turn the ball over. Daniel Jones has had a terrible turnover problem from the fumbles to the interceptions over the course of his career. It got a little bit better last year, but he's still, turnovers is a big issue with Daniel Jones. So he showed on Tuesday a lot of positives. Now here are his stats on Tuesday. So his live drills, he went 16 of 20, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. One of those interceptions was in the red zone. Red zone's always tough. Wilson's had a couple of those so far. Red zone's always a tough zone, but you got to capitalize in the red zone. You got to be good in the red zone. He did have one red zone interception. Now, a positive is Adoree Jackson had both those interceptions. And Adoree Jackson has been just a positive sign, just been a positive, real good player throughout training camp up to this point. And which is a really good sign, because that secondary, if you wanted, you with Thibodeau pass rushing, and, you got some guys, on the defensive line, the edge rushers, Azeez Ojulari and, Thibodeau, they're going to be forcing pressure. The big thing is if the secondary can hold up. That's a positive sign for the defense. But for Daniel Jones, the red zone interception and the other interception to Adoree Jackson, one of them was a little bit off target to Wan'Dale Robinson, and that in itself is not concerning. That's just, Wan'Dale Robinson being a rookie, Daniel Jones trying to get timing right with his rookie receiver, Dory Jackson that's been in the league, he's a veteran, right? Now he's fitting in, still trying to fit in with the Wink Martindale defense. That could just be a common chemistry issue there with him missing. The other play was just a miss, was just a good play by Dory Jackson. Now, as one of the 2 touchdowns he had was to David Sills, and I might be wrong on this, but I could not find who he threw the other touchdown to. I looked on multiple beat reporters. It's possible both of them were to David Sills. It's possible the other one was to Gallarde. I'm not sure. I can't confirm that. I know for sure one of them was to David Sills. I'm not sure where the other one was. I couldn't completely confirm that where it was. It could have been to Gallarde, could have been to Robinson, could have been like a dump off to Barkley. I'm not too sure, but I do know for a fact one of them was to David Sills, and David Sills has actually had a pretty nice camp, and he had a very good day the other day. So a guy that if he can, step up, that's more depth to that wide receiver room. Gallarde, Wan'Dale Robinson, you add David Sills to the mix. That's more depth to a room that definitely needs it, especially with the injury history of Gallarde, because the Giants need depth. And Kadarius Toney had that too. Giants need depth in the receiver room because you can't bank on Gallarde being healthy. And I don't want to be negative, but he's a guy that hasn't been able to stay healthy. So if guys like David Sills can step up and play a big role, those are guys that could play big roles throughout the year if health becomes an issue for some of these receivers, something the Giants had an issue with. They haven't had much receiver depth. If David Sills could be a guy that's been in the system, been around the team, been around the organization for a couple years, if he could be a guy that could step up in a depth role, that's pretty solid for the New York Giants. Pretty solid for Daniel Jones. So Daniel Jones, 16 of 22 touchdowns, 2 picks. 2 touchdowns is very good. That's good. 16 of 20, solid, right? Those are solid numbers. That's good completion rate. That's what you want. Getting the ball out, making the throws. The only 2 mistakes were the interceptions, and Dable said it. You got to cut down on those because in reality, if you throw 2 interceptions in a football game, that could very well be, the game. That could be the game. You throw 2 picks, one of those goes back for 6. That could be the game. So you got to try to limit those. Now the one pick was by Adoree Jackson. That's going to happen. There's going to be good plays. Adoree Jackson is a solid cornerback. He's been in the league, Tennessee, now with the Giants. He's a guy that's solid, right? He's a guy that he's going to make a good play. The miscommunication or the bad throw to Wan'Dale Robinson, that could just be him being a rookie. Jones maybe thinking he was a little too quick. Jones thinking that he would get to the ball faster or get on his route quicker. That could just be chemistry. That's going to happen. But that's why you have training camp, right? So a good day for Jones. Limit the turnovers. That's the big thing with Daniel Jones, and I will always say that. The big issue is the turnovers. He turned the ball over way too much over the course of his career up to this point. If he can limit the turnovers, you don't know how huge that is for the Giants team that has lost many games due to turnovers, due to, just bad plays, bad mistakes. So 16 to 20. He was getting Kenny Gallarde involved, which is what you want. A guy that had a really poor year last year and was injured. But getting him involved, right? Getting Kenny Gallarde involved, the veteran. A guy that when he's healthy, he's a very good receiver. We all know that. And Wan'Dale Robinson also. Getting the ball to him. Even if it's sometimes ugly, even if it gets picked off and the timing might be off, you need to get the ball to your young receivers. Need to get it out. Wan'Dale Robinson's a really interesting pick that they brought in. A really interesting player. He's quick. He's elusive. He has a lot of talent. He can do multiple things. He was there in Kentucky, which is a very interesting offense, the way they run things. He's quick. He's fast. Him and Kadarius Toney, if this works out the way they hope, they could be electric for, many years. Toney, I think the big thing, Toney's got to stay healthy too. So does Gallarde. I said this with the Giants. They've got some talent on their roster. They just can't stay healthy. Barkley can't stay healthy. Gallarde can't stay healthy. Toney last year, despite him showing flashes, couldn't stay healthy, had the ankle issue. There's talent. Even on the defensive side of the ball, there's talent. They just can't stay healthy. And, it shows, offensive line, system. The Giants, too, with this new scheme, they do a lot of different moving. They have a lot of different, motions and stuff. Same thing with the Wink Martindale defense. So, Jones, too, is looking at a different defensive look than what, he was looking at during the Joe Judge era. But, look, Dable's, this is big. Jones has got to find it, like I've said. This is huge. Dable, and I think Dable and his coaching staff is really trying to ramp him up quickly. Because if he doesn't have a good year this year, that's it. That's it for that's it for Daniel Jones on the New York Giants. But that's the spot he's put himself in, and they bought in. they went for this 5th year. They picked him up and they said, look, we're going to give you another shot. And, now it's all about Daniel Jones, taking advantage of that. And, if he continues to stack up days like this is where you really want, this is where you think the system could start to work a little bit, the system and all that stuff, with the maneuvering and all that. And Daboll's got to find a way to work up his magic. And I think if you're a Giant fan and you want to find somewhere to be really optimistic, you got to just kind of say to yourself, Daboll turned Josh Allen inaccurate. He was turning the ball over, turn him into what he is now. Daniel Jones, many of the same issues. He's inaccurate at times, turn the ball over a lot. If you can find a way to just take that stuff out of his game and have days like he had on Tuesday, that's where you'll start to win more football games. And Daboll and this coaching staff is definitely trying their best. And, you also have to have a solid offensive line with this rotation. My ESPN app here is not loading. I'm trying to pull up just some of Daniel Jones' numbers here, just some of his just some of his other numbers, just to kind of show you. So that was Daniel Jones. That was his live drill, 16 of 20, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. One of those touchdowns going to Adoree Jackson. 2 of those picks were to one of the touchdowns was to Davis Sills, and 2 of the picks were to Adoree Jackson, one of those in the red zone. So just you got to cut down on those if you want to win games, and that's the reality. So anyway, like I did yesterday, talked about Wilson. Now I'm going to get into just some other players, just to kind of talk about them. I got 6 guys here. Did 6 guys yesterday for the Jets. I'm going to do 6 guys here as well. So we're going to start off with Kenny Gallarde, right? Kenny Gallarde is a guy. He's gotten involved. Daniel Jones is getting him involved. He got him involved on Tuesday where he was getting him the ball, getting it out quickly. Gallarde is a veteran. He's been in the league. He's a guy but the big issue with Gallarde has been health. And I said this last year when they signed him. He's a guy that if he can stay healthy, that's a big threat for the Giants. But if he can't stay healthy and he can't stay on the field, well, you saw what happened, right? And that's the big thing with Daniel Jones and Gallarde in this offense is Gallarde's got to stay healthy. And up to this point in training camp, he's had a couple good days. He's had a couple good catches from Jones. They've connected. The big thing is just health. If both of them can stay healthy and have that connection, that's big for this Giants offense. Because on paper, you look at it and it's like Gallarde's the number one. If he can't stay healthy, you're relying on some of your younger receivers to step up and play a big role. And that sometimes can be a little bit of an issue when you're talking about an offense. And a quarterback that needs to get going and needs to have a good season, sometimes those veteran rounds are big. So Gallarde's actually had a pretty good camp. Thibodeau's really, really been surprisingly good. Not surprisingly good, but really been phenomenal. The other day had a really good day, had a couple sacks. Thibodeau is just it's just the way he carries himself, his attitude, his just the way, his demeanor. He's built for New York. He's flashy. He's got style. He's got swag. I mean, he's just the guy, that comes in to the big market, played in Oregon, a big market college football team, gets a lot of media attention. He knows what it takes, and he's had a couple really good days. He's a guy that is definitely, getting into the groove, and him and Andrew Thomas have had a couple good battles, and I think that's big for the New York Giants. If you can have him, and I talk about it, the Jets and the Giants, I will tell you, very good edge rushers. You look at the Jets, you got Carl Lawson and Jermaine Johnson. 2 guys that are going to be very good for very long. And you look at, you look at the Giants, you have Azeez Ojulari going to his second season, was phenomenal last year. And you have Kayvon Thibodeau, who's looked good so far throughout training camp going into his rookie year. These are 2 guys that are going to be paired up on the edge for a very long time. That's the hope if you're a New York Giant fan and the coaching staff. So Thibodeau's looked good. And so far, I'm sure there's been some growing pains. There's going to be, but he's looked good. Wan'Dale Robinson, another guy, right? He's a guy another rookie. Jones and him have been trying to connect. Like I mentioned with Daniel Jones, trying to get the ball out to his different receivers, trying to spread the ball out. That's big when you're a quarterback, right? You got to spread the ball out, and I've always said that. I think this is just kind of common sense. One thing that I notice sometimes quarterbacks do is they try to force feed one guy. You got to get the ball out, get it out to your different weapons. They surround you with weapons for a reason. Wan'Dale Robinson, explosive. He's quick. He's fast. He came, from Kentucky. He's a guy that, is definitely. He's just a young, talented, fast. He's not Calvin Johnson or Megatron where he's going to be going up, but he's just quick. He's fast. Get it across the middle, turns a 5-yard pass into a 15, 20-yard game with his speed. Wan'Dale Robinson's been a guy that's had a pretty good camp. David Sills, another one, stood out the other day with a phenomenal day. and I talked about it. Depth at the position that has been injury prone over the past couple seasons for the New York Giants is major, is huge. And I don't want to sit here and act like, oh, the Giants are gonna, have all these injuries again. You don't want to be like that. But if those injuries do come up, it's pivotal to have depth. It's pivotal to have guys that could step up and still play a big role in the offense. David Sills has had a very good day, has had a very good couple days, had a very good day the other day. One of those touchdowns that Jones threw was to David Sills, so a guy that, again, depth piece, but has done well in training camp, and, very well you could possibly see him getting more snaps out there in games than maybe some expected. So David Sills. Barkley, Barkley's a big year. Barkley's similar to Daniel Jones. I'll continue to say it. He's a guy that, if Daniel Jones struggles, he ain't going to be a Giant for much longer. If Saquon Barkley's hurt, he's probably not going to be a Giant for much longer. But Barkley has put together a very nice camp so far. You've heard from Brian Dable. He's a guy that has said, the coach, he's said many times, he looks explosive, he looks quick. I'll continue. Barkley's only 2-3 years removed from his phenomenal rookie season and where he was one of the best running backs in all football. It's been the injuries. I think it's also kind of been, the coaching and just the overall talent and maybe Jones and the offensive line. That's all had some factors into it too. But it's a lot of it's been injuries. If Barkley can stay healthy, he's explosive, he's strong, he's fast, he's still younger. He's got so much talent. The biggest thing is health when it comes to Saquon Barkley. And so far, he's put together a good camp. And that's not surprising. Health's the big thing. He's looked explosive. He's looked good. That's what Dable has said, which is a good sign considering he's coming off of another injury and a guy where he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And even when he was last year, he wasn't really making much of a big-time impact. Barkley's huge. And to many, many fantasy teams out there, Barkley's a big factor. Because if he's healthy, now all of a sudden you got a lot of picks to choose from when you're talking about fantasy football. So Saquon Barkley, and also Andrew Thomas in the offensive line. Andrew Thomas has gone up against a lot of times Kayvon Thibodeau, and that's good for Andrew Thomas. He's a guy that's had, he's been a little iffy with the, rookie year was really bad. Last season was much better. Now you're looking for that big third-year jump out of your offensive line, and Andrew Thomas, and the offensive line in general. Couple new pieces. It's going to take time. There's been a couple good days, a couple bad days rotating in at center. John Feliciano with the Heat's had a couple days off. So just mixing and mashing, finding different pieces. But Andrew Thomas has been against Thibodeau. And that's one of those things where it's iron sharpens iron. Right? Those are two guys that are very, Thibodeau or Thomas going into his third season looking to make that big jump. And Thibodeau obviously, a rookie looking to make his mark, early on in his career. So two guys going at it, and that's, iron sharpens iron. So those are some of my Giants notes and Daniel Jones stats from the other day. And like I said, training camp's big. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. There's going to be days where you look really good. There's going to be days where you look really bad. That's just training camp. That's just how it is. But I think with the Giants and with Daniel Jones is you got to go into the season feeling good about how you did at training camp. You can't go into the season with the training camp where turnovers is an issue and all that stuff. So when you have days like you had on Tuesday with Daniel Jones, you got to keep stacking those days up because in games, turnovers are going to kill you. Daniel Jones has turned the ball over way too much. Health, big issue with the Giants. Stay healthy, limit the turnovers, and you'll win some games if you're the New York Giants. So those are my Giants notes. That's what I got there for the New York Giants yesterday. Like I said, I did the Jets. If you missed that and if you're interested in watching that video, that's up on the channel already. That was yesterday. So now shifting to football, to baseball. I've said that a lot really over the past month. We're going to get to a little bit of baseball now and a little bit of Philadelphia Phillies news coming out of there yesterday. We're going to get into Didi Gregorius. Didi Gregorius has been released by the Philadelphia Phillies after 3 years with the team. It was a kind of a wild couple years with the Phillies. Obviously brought in by Joe Girardi, who's no longer the manager, and they released him yesterday. So let's get into this here. And it's weird. None of my apps are loading here on my phone. Nothing's loading. So I have to just roll with my notes that I already put up here. So Obviously Didi Gregorius getting released from the Phillies. Phillies actually yesterday were able to get the win over the Washington Nationals, who are just brutal. Although Luke Voit, it's funny, a lot of Yankees. Didi gets released, former Yankee. Luke Voit goes on the Nationals, former Yankee. So a lot of former Yankees getting some headlines over the past couple days. But the Phillies get rid of Didi. So, Didi, obviously, a guy that, he's been around for a couple years now. Obviously, former Yankee, was with the Phillies for 3 years, gets released yesterday from the Phillies. Like I said, I think his tenure with the Phillies was weird because he was brought in by a coach who, is no longer there. Joe Girardi's the one who brought him in. He's a guy that, liked him from the Yankees, knew him from the Yankees. They brought him in, and a guy that really, was solid for 2020. Had a solid year in 2020, and he just hasn't been able to really stay consistently solid. He's had a really poor year this year. So in 2020, he played all 60 games, and he had a pretty good year. He batted .284 with a .339 on base percentage, .488 slugging, and an OPS of .827. But since that, everything's gone downhill, offensively and defensively. And something, during his 5 years with the New York Yankees from 2015 to 2019, he was great. Didi was awesome. He obviously had the big shoes to fill with Derek Jeter retiring. He was kind of unproven. He played that short, 2012 8 games with the Reds. Then he played 2 more years with the Diamondbacks. Really wasn't anything special, but he is almost like, in a way, and I've always talked about this, Didi is one of those guys that he loved the bright lights. And you get those guys sometimes, right? He was with the Diamondbacks, wasn't really very good. Goes to the Yankees, bright lights. He likes it. He was phenomenal with the Yankees. I mean, he was great. I think he was more than any of us could have ever imagined. And, some guys like a Joey Gallo, for example, shy away from the bright lights. And I think in a way, Philly, he's now, he's getting up there in age. He's not, the same player he once was. This season was really bad. And I think with the whole Girardi getting fired, I know Rob Thompson has a connection with Didi too from the Yankees, but the fact that the coach isn't there that brought him in, the fact that he's really still struggling, you have a young player in Bryson Stott that's coming up that the Phillies really like, that, although he's batting below 200, he's had a couple really nice hits, he's shown he's had a couple really good at-bats. He's a guy that's got a bright future. He's 24 years old. He's definitely, he's getting better. Didi getting up there in age, he's not the same player he once was. It makes sense. They needed to make roster move. They needed to make room, and Didi's the odd man out. Now, this year, he's just been awful. And I just want to say this. I love Didi. He was great. He was awesome with the Yankees. He was awesome. I had a Didi t-shirt, all that good stuff. I loved him. The whole Sir Didi, hitting all those long balls, second deck and right field, was great. Bat built for Yankee Stadium, all that stuff. So the Yankee fans out there right now that are asking for Didi Gregorius to come back, and so then he can replace IKF, you are out of your mind. And I don't mean that negative. I don't want to sound like I'm attacking you, but it's the truth. Didi was great. He was phenomenal. Didi is way out of his prime now. His last year of his prime, I would probably say, was the shortened 2020 60-game season in which he batted .284, .339 on base, and an OPS of .827. Just a really good year in 2020. After that, 2021 wasn't good, and this season either has not been good. This year, his slash line, .210 batting average, .263 on base percentage. His on base percentage is all the way down to .263. Not working walks, not getting on base. His defense has really dipped. He's getting up there in age. He's getting older. The Yankees do not need to bring Didi Gregorius back. As much as it would be, great locker room guy, I get all that. The locker room part, I get. He was, he's already knows the clubhouse, knows a lot of the guys on the roster. I mean, we're only 3 years removed from when he was with the Yankees. It wasn't like he was with the Yankees during, when Derek Jeter and all them there, like bringing David Robertson back or somebody like that. But, just get it out of your system. Because I heard all of yesterday, right when this move goes down, you hear, Didi this, Didi that, bring back Didi, get rid of IKF. I don't know why Yankee fans don't like IKF. I don't know what's wrong with him. First of all, to all those fans out there that says a Gold Glover shortstop, that's simply not true. He's a Gold Glover third baseman. They brought in Donaldson, he switched to shortstop, and boom. Okay, he's not a Gold Glove or shortstop. So all those people saying out there, oh, we want a Gold Glove at shortstop, you're just simply wrong. You're wrong. You just don't know your stuff. He's a Gold Glove or third baseman, right? And he's been phenomenal with the bat. He's batting in the 270s. He gets hits. He's not a power hitter. We knew that. So the fans out there that are asking for Didi to come back, if number one, it's not going to happen because they're going to have to get rid of somebody on the roster now, and I don't foresee them doing that, especially after the trade deadline. Number two, he's not the same player he once was. And number three, IKF is doing a perfectly fine job. Yeah, his defense hasn't been great, but he's adjusting to it. You're throwing him into a position that he's not used to playing. Let's be honest here. I know he played some shortstop in Texas, but he was mainly a third baseman. Now he's playing shortstop every single day. He's made some really good plays. He has made some poor plays. I'm not denying that. His bat has been phenomenal. He's up in the 270s. He gets on base. He gets big hits. There's no need to bring in Didi to replace IKF. Just so then we can all complain that Didi's batting 2-ton and striking out too much and not playing good defense. Look at Didi's defensive numbers. Like I said, I like Didi. I loved him with the Yankees. It was great. Filling in the shoes for Derek Jeter. He had so much pressure on him, and he took it and he used that to his advantage. I mean, he loved the bright lights. It was 5 great years. Was a part of that 2017 team that made that magical run to the ALCS that nobody saw coming. Was a part of all those playoff runs. Was a big asset for us. Was great defensively. I get that. He's not that anymore. He's batting 210. Got an on-base percentage below 270. Got a slugging percentage all the way down in the 500s. His defense is not what it used to be. That's why the Phillies got rid of him. They're bringing in youth. 24-year-old Bryson Stott. He's shown some progress. He's shown some growth. He's shown the ability to play shortstop. He's very good defensively. He's shown some positive signs with his bat. It's all about developing him at this point. So just get that out of your head. Just forget about it. A lot of Yankee fans say, like, oh, get rid of IKF and bring in Didi. Do not do that. If you want to bring in Didi just as a bench piece, all right, maybe. But do not bring him in to start over IKF, who has done a perfectly fine job this year when it comes to his bat. And yes, he's made some errors, but he's also made some big plays. And some of those errors that he's made was because he was going out for the big play. He was diving for a ball or trying to make a big running throw. It's going to happen. But do not sit here and say bringing in Didi Gregorius, who is way out of his prime and not the same player he once was, bring him in to replace IKF. No. All you heard yesterday was bring him in. The only way you're bringing him back, the only way the Yankees are bringing him back is if they would to get rid of like a Marwin Gonzalez, bring him in and he play the role of a Marwin Gonzalez. Play maybe once every 2 weeks. Throw him in the lineup if there's a guy that needs a day off. Because let's be honest here, he's just going to be holding up a roster spot at that point. If Didi goes to the Yankees, goes back to the Yankees. And I know some of this isn't rumors. This is just fans talking. And this is where I have a big problem with Yankee fans, where some Yankee fans just hate IKF. Just hate him. But a lot of times, with Yankee fans, sometimes they're like, oh, bring back this former player. This is not rumors. It's not like the Yankees are having a conversation with Didi. They're not going to bring Didi back. They're not going to. And if they would have to get rid of somebody on the roster now. And I don't think they're getting rid of anybody in the bullpen, which is smart. They need as much arms as they have in the bullpen. And they're not going to get rid of somebody on the bench. They're not going to get rid of Aaron Hicks so they can go pick up Didi Gregorius. They're not going to do that. But like I said, I love Didi. I love him. He was great. He was awesome. But just no need. Look at the defensive stats. He's been awful this year. And he's got an OPS of 567. His OPS has gone progressively worse each year. 827, 639, 567. His on-base percentage has also gotten worse each year. Slugging percentage each year has gotten worse. Like I said, the last year for Didi Gregorius in his prime, or I should say where he could be a solid asset, was in 2020 when he batted .284, had a .339 on-base percentage, slugging of .488, and an OPS of .827. He's also had a little bit of struggle staying on the field. He's only played 63 games this season. He only played 103 last year. So he's had a little bit of a struggle staying on the field, and that's just, injuries and old age catching up to him. But there's no need to bring him in as an asset from the shortstop position. There's just no need to do that. When you're batting .210, got 1 home run, he's not hitting for power anymore, And Didi utilized that short porch, which was big too, which I think could be why the power numbers are not quite the same. I mean, in his years with the Yankees, 20 homers, 25 home runs, 27, 16. In his years with the Phillies, it's been 10, 13, and 1 this year. His power numbers have dropped. And that's when you know there's the guy who hits for power a little bit. He with the Yankees cranked in 20, 25 home runs a year. That's a guy that you could tell is getting up there in age. He's much older now. Power numbers aren't there. Batting average isn't there. Base percentage isn't there. It's just a lot of stuff is not there when it comes to Didi. And the defense, something that he's been so good at, was his defense, isn't there anymore. So Phillies get rid of Didi, and now they're shifting their focus solely on Bryson Stott and bringing him in and as a shortstop. And I've actually seen Bryson Stott play a little bit. Now he can play, second base, shortstop. He can do a little bit of both. But, he's a guy that, with Gene Segura being second, now coming back, he's a guy that's going to shift over. He's young. I mean, he's 24 years old. I know, when you look at the numbers right now, they're not great. But he's had some really nice, he's had some solid at-bats. He's had some solid hits. Like, he's a guy that I've actually seen him play a couple times, when the Phillies have been on. Like, he's a guy that, although you look at the numbers, they're not great. I mean, 198 batting average with 264 on base percentage. He has shown, he's young. This is his first year in the league. These are his first 76 MLB games he's ever played. There's going to be growing pains, but he's definitely had some really solid hits. He's also made some solid plays. He's a guy that's young. Phillies are looking to hopefully develop him. They also get Gene Segura back, needed to make some room. Segura's very good. Now look at that infield. It's basically Hoskins, Segura, Stott, and you look at Alec Bohm, and you look at that infield and you go and say, all right, Hoskins is 29, Bohm is 26, Stott is 24, Segura's 32. He's up there. He's getting up there, but Hoskins, Stott, and Bohm all have a lot more time left. Those are guys that are just going to be with that team for a very long time if Scott develops and turns into the player they expect. So if with Gene Segura, he's 32. He's getting up there in age, but he's still got a lot of gas left in the tank. He's still a very, very solid asset. So you look at the roster, you look at the team, it makes sense as to why they got rid of Didi. It makes sense. Got rid of a guy that was up there in age, not the same player he once was. A little bit more youth now in that infield. And Alec Bohm and Hoskins have put together a very good season. Alec Bohm actually leads the team in hits. He's got 108 hits this year. Leads the team as well in batting average. Got off to the season with a little bit of a rough start defensively. And offensively, you all remember when he said, I hate this place, or whatever he said. He's been much better. So, a little bit younger now. And, they just got, they got rid of Didi's contract. Just, Girardi brought him in. Girardi's no longer there. He's just the guy that really, when you look at it, he doesn't fit on the roster now, and he doesn't really see fit down the road, especially with Segura coming back. So they get rid of Didi, and now their infield gets a lot younger and a lot more talented. And you look at the standings. I mean, the Phillies are a team right now that is in, they're 10 games out in the NL East, but they're 57-48. You look at the wild card; they're in a very good spot in the wild card. They are up. They're currently three-way tied. So right now they're tied for the final wild card. It's the Phillies, Cardinals, and Brewers. That wild card is going to be wild because it's going to be Phillies, Cardinals, Brewers are all in it, and Harper's expected to be back by September. That's another thing too. Harper's coming back. They like Stott. Didi just didn't fit. Harper's going to come back for their stretch run. Phillies are on a roll. They're a 2-game win streak, 8-2 in their last 10, and their schedule lightens up a little bit here. 4 against the Nationals, what they're in the middle of right now. They won last night. It was a shortened game, 5 innings, or 4 1/3, whatever it was. Tonight they'll play, obviously, 3. They'll finish up their 3 more games. And then they got 3 against the Marlins, which is winnable. They got a 7-game homestand, 6 more games left. So then they play the Mets, and then they get the Reds, and then the Mets again, and then the Reds, and then the Pirates. You look at their schedule, then the Diamondbacks. They got a very, outside of the Mets, you look at the Phillies' schedule. They got a very winnable schedule. Nationals right now, which they already took care of business last night. 3 more against them. Then you got the Marlins for 3. Then the Mets for 4, which is going to be tough, or 3, which is going to be tough. But, look, if you're rolling, you're playing well. I mean, maybe you steal a game there or 2. Then the Reds, then the Mets again, which is also going to be tough. But then you have the Reds again, then the Pirates, then the Diamondbacks. You go into September, Giants, who are very beatable. And at that point, you wonder where the Giants are. They might be sunk by then. Then the Marlins, Nationals, Marlins. Braves are going to be good. Blue Jays for 2, then the Braves, then the Cubs. Then they finish out the year with the Nationals and then the Astros, which is going to be tough. The Phillies have a very, very favorable schedule. If you look at it, very favorable schedule the rest of the way. They do. I mean, you look at their schedule. I mean, the Marlins aren't terrible. They're competitive. They can win games. But, if you're on a roll, you should have no issue beating the Marlins. So, that makes those games against the Mets that much bigger. Because if you can, you take care of business against the bad teams, that's expected. If you can maybe take games from the Mets, steal some from the Braves, that's when you're going to get into a wild card run. And you have to imagine those September games, you're going to have Harper. So you're going to have Harper for those Braves series. You're going to have Harper for that quick 2-game set against the Blue Jays, again against the Braves. You're going to have Harper for that final series against the Astros. So you're getting your biggest bat back. You're getting your best player back. So Phillies, I will tell you what, as much as they get bullied sometimes and made fun of, which rightfully so, they've had a very rough couple years, they got a very good chance of making the wild card because when you look at their schedule, it's very favorable. So that's what I got on Didi Gregorius and the Phillies and all that good stuff. All right, so let's finish things off here on the podcast. Finish off another good week. We're going to start off with the Cubs, Marlins, Phillies, Nationals, Pirates, Orioles, Guardians, Astros, Tigers, Rays, Rangers, White Sox, Twins, Blue Jays, Red Sox, Royals, Brewers, Reds, Rockies, Diamondbacks, Angels, Mariners, and the Dodgers, Giants. That Dodgers-Giants series is going to be a lot of fun. You got Tony Gonsolin and Sean Manaea on the mound. So, should be fun. Mets, Braves tonight. Game 2 of the 5-game set before the doubleheader tomorrow. Mets come into today's game 67-38. Braves come into tonight's game 63-43. 7:10 Eastern on SNY. Ian Anderson takes the mound for the Braves. He's 9-6 with a 4.99 ERA. And Taijuan Walker will take the mound for the Mets. He's 9-2 with a 2.79 ERA. Over/under set at 8.5. And then you got the Yankees and the Cardinals tonight. Yankees come into tonight's game 70-36. Cardinals come into tonight's game 57-48. 8:15 p.m. Eastern. Find it on Prime Video. Nestor Cortez comes into tonight's game 9-3 with a 2.53 ERA. Nasty Nestor continues his good season. He'll look to roll tonight. And then Daniel Hudson will be on the mound tonight as well. I apologize. Dakota Hudson will be on the mound tonight. He's 6-6 with a 4.10 ERA. Over/under set at 8.5. So Yankees, Cardinals tonight. By the way, Game 2 will be tomorrow. Herman will take the ball against Monty. And in Game 3 will be Montez versus Wainwright. That should be a good pitching matchup. Looking forward to that. Alrighty, and as for fantasy baseball, I'm currently winning, or losing rather, 229 to 156. And today I've got Kyle Gibson going. Kyle Gibson, Jose Berrios, Tony Gonsolin, and Taijuan Walker. So tonight's my big opportunity to make a strong push towards the final, or towards the gaining back my lead. And as for fantasy baseball in my other league, I'm losing 125 to 111. And today I've got Jose Berrios, Eric Lauer, and Taijuan Walker going. My main league, like I said, I've got Jose Berrios, Taijuan Walker, Kyle Gibson, and Tony Gonsolin. I'm looking to pick up Gene Segura. So I picked up what's his face? Jeffrey Springs yesterday. And he had 27 points. 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs, no walks, 6 strikeouts. So did what he needed to do. I don't know if I'm going to drop him, pick him up. I guess I'll see. But I want to get Gene Segura. So I don't know if I maybe have Gene Segura on my roster. That's why I was looking to trade. It's interesting because I don't really know who to drop. I mean, I guess I probably could drop Jared Walsh. I mean, he's been better recently, but he's not great. Batting .229. So, Yohan Moncada I could probably get away with dropping. Probably could. Probably should. He's not very good. He's only got 76 points this year. Maybe I'll get rid of him. Keep the extra pitcher. So, we'll see. But looking to come back in both fantasy leagues. It has not been very common that I'm losing in both fantasy leagues this year. So, looking to come back in both of those. And Yeah, that's what's on tap. So that will do it. Another good week in the books. Friday, going into the weekend. Looking forward to it. Big weekend ahead in baseball, football as well. Training camp and all that good stuff continues. So, enjoy your weekend, everybody. As always, as you all know, I will do my Sunday show, which is Bub's Talking Baseball on Apple Podcasts if you're interested in that. But as for this show, have a good weekend. Enjoy all the sports. I will see you all back here on the flip side, back here on Monday. Hope you enjoy, or see you all back here on Monday. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.